I was sat in a cosy pub lounge waiting for my meal and spotted on the wall something a little unusual. It was a contract, and it wasn't one of those big, long indentures, a property contract written in fine legal script and long words. It was more like a postcard. And basically, it was an agreement between a landlord of this pub, a Cheshire Cheese Inn in Edale, and the mayor of the local village. And basically, the pub landlord agreed for the payment of 1 shilling to keep a bull for the benefit of the village. Now, this is kind of quite unusual. Here we've got a contract between two people, because that's pretty much what our contracts are between, but for the benefit of a wider group of people. The idea presumably being that if the bull wasn't kept or wasn't of the right sort of quality, then the mayor could bring an action on behalf of the people of the town. And we see that sort of thing happening in contracts nowadays. So, for example, I do quite a lot of work with retrofit organisations, and they're looking at how they can gather grants from government and funding from different places, people who are in fuel poverty or who have poorly insulated homes, take the funding from the government, find the householders and act as a middle, the linchpin between them and the people who will be doing the work, the trades, the contractors, the subcontractors, the suppliers. Now, the problem is if the retrofit consultancy enters into agreement with a homeowner to carry out works, they're not actually doing any of the works. They're subcontracting that to somebody else. But the contract holds that retrofit consultancy liable. So we have this beneficial agreement for all concerned. Funding comes from one place, homeowners come, the expertise is in the middle, and then it's passed out to whoever's going to carry out the work. But a contractual scenario which is quite difficult to unpick, because we can't have, if you've promised to do work, you say, well, we didn't do the work, somebody else did it on our behalf, so sorry if it's not very good. You can't have that sort of passing on of liability. Subcontracting doesn't actually change the liability of the company in the middle, the main contractor or the retrofit consultancy or whoever it is. So that we have this problem with these sort of multi-interest contracts as to how we can structure them in a way that makes sense for everybody. Now, it's really important that we have structures that do work, and maybe it's a case that the retrofit company just gives advice and puts people in touch with contractors and gets the funding on their behalf. But maybe we also just can do a really good contract with their subcontractors to say, well, your job is to rectify issues, and if you don't, you're going to pay us all the money we have to pay out to these clients, because at the end of the day, we're a small retrofit consultancy. They're normally run pretty much on a shoestring based on small government grants. So they can't be held liable if the boiler explodes. That's not their expertise. Their expertise is acting as the linchpin, bringing all these different people together to make a successful project. So we have to think about how contracts work in the scheme of the project as a whole. I don't think there was a contract between the mayor of Edale and the people of Edale to say, I'm going to make sure that the landlord has a bull, and then you'll be able to have, I don't know, shares in it. You'll be able to use it once a year for the normal purposes that you need a bull for. I don't know. Maybe it was just a farmers association in that village who had rights to use a bull. I can't imagine the children or the school teacher or the postmaster getting much use out of it, but who knows? The contract was not clear. It was only a few lines long, and it hadn't been written by a lawyer, it seemed. It looked like pretty much a homemade contract. But that doesn't mean it wasn't effective. That doesn't mean it didn't work for all the people involved. So we need to think about structure. We need to think about what liabilities you can pass on, what you need to pass on, what liabilities you want to accept. What is it you're promising to do? When we have complicated structures with lots of people involved, we need to really ask some proper questions to make sure the contract is safeguarding the businesses of all the parties concerned, helping the project move forward, but not getting so legally complicated that it annoys anyone. If only we could write them all on a postcard and stick them on the wall. Maybe that would make it easier for everyone.